Imagine this. You're driving home from work on a Tuesday evening when suddenly your world changes forever. A drunk driver slams into your car, leaving you with serious injuries, mounting medical bills, and a damaged vehicle. Your first instinct is to go after the driver who caused this mess. And you absolutely should. But here's something most people don't realize, that the driver might not be the only one responsible for what happened to you. I'm Brett Harrison, a New York personal injury attorney, and I want you to know something. If that drunk driver was served alcohol at a bar, a restaurant, or nightclub when they were already visibly intoxicated, you might have a claim against that establishment as well. This isn't some legal loophole or trick. It's New York law, and it exists for a very important reason. Now let's talk about this law, known as the New York Dram Shop Act. New York has what's called the Dram Shop Act, and it's found in General Obligations Law, Section 11-101. This law allows you to bring a legal claim against any business that illegally sold alcohol to someone who then caused injuries while intoxicated. Now, the key word here is illegally. Not every sale of alcohol creates liability. Only illegal ones do. So, what makes an alcohol sale illegal in New York? That's defined in Alcoholic Beverage Control Law, Section 65, subsection 2, which states very clearly, no person shall sell, deliver, or give away any alcoholic beverages to any visibly intoxicated person. The same law also prohibits selling alcohol to anyone under 21. So if a bar serves someone who's clearly drunk, or if they serve a minor and that person gets behind the wheel and causes a crash, the bar can be held legally responsible for the consequences. This applies to any business licensed to sell alcohol: bars, nightclubs, restaurants, wedding venues, even concert halls or sports stadiums. If they have a liquor license and they violate these rules, they can be held accountable when someone gets hurt. Number 2, what you need to prove against the bar. To successfully hold a bar responsible under New York's Dram Shop Act, you typically need to prove 3 key elements. First, the bar illegally sold alcohol to someone who was either visibly intoxicated or underage. Second, that the person's intoxication caused the crash that injured you. And 3, you suffered serious injuries and financial losses as a result. Let me break this down further because each element matters. The illegal sale is often the most challenging to prove because you need evidence that the person was visibly intoxicated when they were served. The bar isn't automatically liable just because someone got drunk there. You have to show they continued serving someone who was already obviously impaired. The causation element means you need to connect the bar's illegal service to the crash. If someone had 1 drink at the bar, then went to 3 other places and had 10 more drinks, proving the first bar caused the intoxication obviously becomes much harder. But if they had most of their drinks at one establishment while showing clear signs of intoxication, that's a much stronger case. The injury requirement is straightforward, but important. You need actual damages, medical bills, lost wages, pain and suffering, property damage. The law doesn't create liability for theoretical harm. 3, recognizing when someone is visibly intoxicated. The phrase visibly intoxicated is crucial because it's the bar's responsibility to recognize when someone has had too much to drink. New York courts have been very clear that bartenders and servers don't need to be medical experts, but they do need to pay attention to obvious signs of intoxication. What does visible intoxication look like? Slurred speech is probably the most common side. Stumbling, falling, or having trouble basically maintaining balance. Aggressive, loud, or erratic behavior. That's clearly out of the ordinary. Bloodshot or glassy eyes. The strong smell of alcohol on someone's breath or clothing. Difficulty handling money or credit cards, or trouble understanding simple questions. I've handled these cases where surveillance video from the bar showed the drunk driver falling off their bar stool, yet the bartender continued serving them. I've seen cases where the person was so intoxicated they couldn't walk straight to the bathroom, but they kept getting drinks. These are clear examples of visible intoxication that any reasonable person would recognize. The law doesn't require bartenders to give breathalyzer tests, but it does require them to use common sense. If someone is showing obvious signs of being drunk, continuing to serve them alcohol is illegal. And if that person then causes a crash, the bar can be held responsible. 4. Gathering evidence for your dram shop claim. Building a strong dram shop case requires different types of evidence than a typical car accident claim. Yes, you still need all the usual accident evidence, police reports, medical records, photos of vehicle damages, witness statements from the accident scene, but you also need evidence from inside the bar or the restaurant. Credit card receipts and bar tabs can show how much someone drank and over what time period. Security camera footage from the establishment can be incredibly valuable, showing the person's behavior and condition while they're being served. Sometimes this footage shows someone clearly intoxicated, stumbling, or acting erratically while bartenders continue to serve them. Witness statements from other patrons or employees can support your claim. People remember when someone is obviously drunk and causing a scene. Sometimes other customers even tried to intervene or suggested the person should stop drinking. Blood alcohol content evidence is also crucial. If the drunk driver was arrested and tested, those results can help establish their level of intoxication and, working backward, what their condition would have been earlier in the evening at the bar. The challenge is that this evidence disappears quickly. Security footage gets recorded over, witnesses forget details, and receipts get thrown away. That's why it's so important to act quickly if you suspect a bar shares responsibility for your crash. Now 5, social host liability has different rules. Now, what if the drunk driver wasn't at a commercial establishment, like a restaurant or a bar? What if they were at someone's house party or backyard barbecue? New York handles private social hosts differently than commercial establishments like a restaurant or a bar. Generally speaking, if you're at a private party and you serve alcohol to an adult who's visibly intoxicated, you won't be held liable if that person later causes a crash. The dram shop law doesn't apply to private individuals serving alcohol in their own homes to other adults. However, there's an important exception when minors are involved. Under General Obligations Law, Section 11-100, if a social host knowingly provides alcohol to someone under 21 and that person then causes a crash, the host can be held liable. This is called social host liability, and it's designed to discourage adults from providing alcohol to minors. The key word is knowingly. The social host has to know that the person is under 21. If a minor uses a fake ID and the host reasonably believes they're of legal drinking age, that's a different situation. 6. Understanding your potential compensation. When you have a valid dram shop claim, you're potentially dealing with multiple responsible parties, the drunk driver and the bar or restaurant. This can actually work in your favor because it means more insurance covered and potentially more sources of compensation. From a drunk driver, you might recover compensation for medical expenses, lost wages, property damage, and pain and suffering. If the driver doesn't have enough insurance to cover your full damages, having the bar as an additional defendant can make a huge difference. Commercial establishments like bars or restaurants typically carry substantial liability insurance policies because, let's face it, they're in a high-risk business. A busy bar or restaurant might have $1 million or more in coverage. This additional insurance can be crucial when you're dealing with catastrophic injuries that result in hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills. You may be able to recover past and future medical expenses, including surgery, rehabilitation, and long-term care. Lost wages from the time you've missed work and reduced earning capacity if your injuries prevent you from returning to your previous job or limit your ability to work. Property damage to your vehicle, pain and suffering for the physical and emotional trauma you've endured. In wrongful death cases, Family members may recover funeral and burial expenses, loss of the deceased person's future earnings, and compensation for the loss of companionship and guidance. 7. Why dram shop cases are more complex. Dram shop cases are more complicated than your typical car accident claims because you're dealing with multiple defendants who will likely try to blame each other. The drunk driver's insurance company, they may argue that the bar is primarily responsible because they continued serving someone who is obviously intoxicated. The bar's insurance company will argue that the driver made the choice to get behind the wheel and is fully responsible for the consequences. This finger pointing can actually work in your favor if handled correctly, but it requires experienced legal representation. You need an attorney who understands how to build this critical evidence against both parties and won't let either defendant escape responsibility. The bar's insurance company will typically investigate these claims very aggressively. They'll interview their own employees, review security footage, and look for any reason to deny liability. They might argue their employees weren't properly trained to recognize intoxication or that the person seemed fine when they were being served. You'll also be dealing with commercial insurance policies that may have different coverage limits and exclusions than typical auto insurance. Understanding these policies and how to maximize recovery requires specific expertise. 8. Time limits you need to know. In New York, you have 3 years from the date of your injury to file a personal injury lawsuit. This applies to both your claim against the drunk driver and your dram shop claim against the bar or restaurant. This time limit is set by Civil Practice Law and Rules, Section 214, subsection 5. 3 years might seem like a long time, but in dram shop cases, evidence, it disappears quickly. Security footage gets recorded over, usually within 30 to 90 days. Employees quit or forget details. Receipts and records get discarded. The sooner you act, the better your chances of preserving crucial evidence. If your case involves a wrongful death, the time limit may be shorter, typically 2 years under state's powers and trust laws, section 5-4.1. And if a municipal entity is somehow involved, such as a city-owned venue, you might need to file a notice of claim within just 90 days, though this situation is quite rare. The bottom line is this. If you suspect a bar or a restaurant shares responsibility for your drunk driving accident, don't wait. The evidence you need to prove your case is disappearing every day. So here's what you've learned today. Under New York's Dram Shop Act, bars and restaurants can be held legally responsible when they illegally serve alcohol to visibly intoxicated patrons or minors who then cause crashes. You need evidence of the illegal service, causation, and damages. Multiple defendants often mean more insurance coverage and better chances of full compensation. But you need to act quickly because crucial evidence disappears fast. Now, here's something equally important you need to understand. What happens if you were injured in one accident and then you're involved in a second, completely separate incident before your first case is resolved? Can you file 2 injury lawsuits at the same time? This is a situation more people face than you might think. And there are specific rules and strategies that can protect your rights in both cases. I'm covering exactly how this works, what mistakes to avoid, and how to maximize your recovery in both lawsuits in my next video. Can I file more than one injury claim at the same time? If you're dealing with multiple injury claims, this information could be crucial to you protecting your legal rights and your financial future. See you over there.